Hello, everyone, and welcome to Molehill Mountain with your host, me. Alright, so after a hiatus of almost a year, I filmed another debut review. I think last week I did a debut review for Gremlins, The Secret of the Mogwai, a show that I think came out last spring. I forget what the last debut reviewed, but yeah, it's been a while, so that was fun to do that again. And as I mentioned before I started, I did actually do a debut review for X-Men '97, so that'll be this coming week. But I did a debut review for Gremlins, and thought it was off to a pretty decent start. And I'd said at the end of that video that I'd probably watch at least one more episode because I want to see some Gremlins. Right? If I'm going to watch a Gremlins show, I want to see how they do the Gremlins. I've watched 3 episodes so far, and it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. What I really admire about the show, and I was correct in my speculation that the second episode would end with the gremlin eggs hatching, and then we actually get to see some gremlins in the third episode. Unfortunately, the bad guys capture the gremlins immediately, so we don't really get mass gremlin mayhem, at least not in episode 3. Pardon me. What I do admire about the show is, while it's not violent, there's no blood, it's not gory, it's definitely, I don't know what the TV ratings are, but it's definitely a viewer discretion advised, because there's some pretty frightening imagery, I would think, for some young viewers. The main bad guy is this tall, spindly, kind of gaunt old wizard guy who will suck your soul out of your body with his, with the force, and your soul will swirl around and become a little ball of you, and then he will literally dislocate his jaw like a damn snake and stuff you in. And he eats one of the major characters, and by the end of episode 3, that major character is still et. And there's a lot of, spooky lighting and weird green mystical mist going on. It kind of reminds me of that horrifying damn face in the book in the Care Bears movie. That thing was scary as hell. Particularly for young children. Nicholas, I think that kid's name was? Anyway, hello, Snake. But it's shot really well. It does a lot of cutaways to, the shadow showing him, jamming the soul ball in his gob. One of the bad guys, when trying to rustle up one of the gremlins, gets one of his fingers bitten off. It's a little weird because there's, no gore or anything. There's no actual wound. It's like he's just missing one of his finger at the second knuckle. It's almost like, does he have a prosthetic finger and the gremlin prosthetic fingertip and the gremlin stole it? But I think the implication is the gremlin bit his damn finger off. And what's hilarious is the gremlin's just teasing him with it all the time. Treating it like a cigar and holding it between his teeth and in his mouth. Still got it. Might swallow it. Might swallow your finger. You're not going to get it back. So there's a nice balance of the gremlins just being really goofy and mean little asswipes, and also some imagery and situations that are, while not presented in a overtly gory way, are genuinely kind of unsettling. So kudos to the show for maybe giving a few kids some well-earned nightmares. Stuff that in 20, 30 years um, people who were kids today will say, "Oh man, you know what freaked me out when I was a kid? Just like that old dude in that old Gremlins cartoon who like ate that dude." It's like, oh man, that freaked me out when I was 6, right? Um, yeah, you never know. Lee, hello. You can regrow the tips? Oh, sweet. Um, although this the Gremlins TV show takes place in like the 1920s, so it's about the guy who Peltzer or something buys the Mogwai from in the Gremlins movie. The old guy runs the shop. It's him as a kid, so it takes place in the 1920s. And it's okay so far. Might don't know if I'm gonna keep watching it. I might, just to see where it goes and what it does, but yeah, we'll see. Lindy, hello. All right, so talked about Gremlins. All right, let's talk about Ghostbusters. Um, so Ghostbusters came out, the new movie, Forbidden Kingdom or something. Frozen Empire. I have show notes. I should probably like write this stuff down beforehand. So my favorite movie of all time is Ghostbusters from 1984. I didn't see it in the theater. I was 4 years old at the time, but I was aware of it. Not sure how, because I remember being completely aware of the film when we lived in Granada Hills, and I was 5 years old at the time, which would have been 1985. So I must have seen like some market, because the real Ghostbusters hadn't come out yet. I must have seen toys and marketing and stuff, because I knew who the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was. Maybe we rented it on VHS or something like that. But anyway, Ghostbusters is my favorite movie. I wouldn't, even though it's my favorite movie, I wouldn't say it's the best movie, but it's my favorite, and probably always will be. In fact, my top 5 films hasn't changed for decades, so it's probably never going to change. For those curious, the other 4, in no particular order, are The Blues Brothers, Nightmare Before Christmas, Little Shop of Horrors, the Frank Oz one from '86, and Jaws. So yeah, 60% of them are musicals. Go figure. Let's see. Chaos, hello Chaos, says meant to see Ghostbusters this weekend, but was too sick to get out of bed. I would have gone to see it if it was not double featuring with itself. So, both showings are Ghostbusters. As soon as it stops double featuring with itself, I'll go see it. Even if it's showing with a movie I don't have much interest in. But I mean, if they want to, like, do a showing of Ghostbusters why do I keep calling it Forbidden Kingdom? Frozen Empire, and the new Godzilla and Kong movie, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll see a double feature of that. I'm a big fan of not just the film Ghostbusters, but the Ghostbusters property. Loved the cartoon. You can probably see it behind me somewhere. Where is it? Don't oh yeah, no, there it is. It's right next to Gantz. That's the Firehouse box set right there. You can see it right there. Yeah, I love the cartoon. Had a bunch of the toys. Still have a bunch of the toys. I've got every year I have to dig the Firehouse and the Ecto-1 out of my closet and like give them a shower because they get just real gunky and dirty. Yeah, wash if you keep your toys from your childhood. Make sure you. I mean, I keep most of mine in boxes and like garment bags, but still good to take them out every year and dust them off because they get kind of gunky. Lee says Ghostbusters isn't what it used to be in the 80s, but got introduced to it by the cartoon series. Yeah, so we'll talk about that. So Ghostbusters 2 came out in 1989. And is it a good movie? I don't think so. I don't think it totally works as a movie, but if you're a fan of Ghostbusters, there's a lot to genuinely really love about the film. It's got some ludicrously high highs, but admittedly, it's got some embarrassing lows too. Although one thing I admire about the movie is it does, particularly compared to franchise films of today, doesn't seem to be as afraid that you won't love it if it doesn't just repeat the first movie. Um, like, there's definitely some callbacks and maybe some characters in Ghostbusters 2 that didn't really need to come back, um, or at least as much as they did. Um, but the scenario is mostly new, and even things that recall imagery from the first, like the Statue of Liberty walking down the street, is definitely evocative of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It's different enough, I think. Like the whole scenario is different. I love the fact that the premise of the movie is, or at least where it starts out, is to me hilarious. The first film ends with the Ghostbusters saving New York and by extension the entire world. And 5 years later, they're out of business because they may have saved the world, but they were immediately sued out of business, which is hilarious. Uh, it's like, hey, Ghostbusters! Everyone's cheering them, and they drive away, and Slimer flies at the camera, and the credits roll, and they were immediately sued by, as I think Winston puts it, everyone in New York sued them. Um, that's a funny place to start. Then nothing happened with Ghostbusters for several decades until 2016, where they didn't do a sequel but just made a Ghostbusters movie. Brand new cast, brand new stuff. And for me, like Ghostbusters 2, it's okay. Is it a good movie? I don't think so. But as a fan of Ghostbusters, there's a lot to love. I don't think its highs get as high as the best parts of Ghostbusters 2, but I also don't feel that it hits quite the embarrassing lows that Ghostbusters 2 hits. It's kind of in the middle somewhere. Like, some stuff works really well, some stuff doesn't work. And while and again, it's a film that wasn't, for the most part, slavishly devoted to just rehashing the first film. Like, Slimer's in it, sure. The ending bad guy looks really... I mean, the big monster at the end is basically the No Ghost logo, which is a funny idea, but it's a big, white, tubby monster. It looks kind of like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Kind of unavoidable, but there it is. Most of the original cast cameos are actually, lovely to see and unintrusive, so that works. They weren't shy about just redesigning all of the iconography, from the suits to the equipment to the car to the actual location, although the original Firehouse does make a cameo in a very funny way. They're looking for a home base of operations, and they go to the original Firehouse and like, oh my god, this is great. And Abby and what is Kate McKinnon's character's name? The Holtz or something. They're playing on the fire pole, and she's like, great. Well, this is great. How much is it? She goes, like, $4,500 a month. She's like, fuck you. And she's like, oh my god, I'm sorry. What? Do you have anything that's like just some good stuff? Good movie? I don't think so. I remember my dad asked me after I saw it in the theater. He like texted me or something. He's like, "So what'd you think? New Ghostbusters movie. You're a big Ghostbusters fan. What'd you think?" I'm like, 2 out of 5. It's not very good, but as a Ghostbusters fan, I there's a lot to like about it. I thought. If you don't like Ghostbusters as a concept, movie's probably not going to do much for you. But I mean, there's ghosts, and they shoot lasers at him. So you've at least got that. Let's see. Snake says, speaking of stuff taking place in the 20s, I'm playing Alone in the Dark, the remake. Oh, okay. Cafe Fox says, I kind of like that movie too. The worst part of it is the Chris Helmsworth character. Yeah. And all due respect to Chris Helmsworth, damn funny actor. But holy shit, I don't think they figured out what they wanted that character to be. Because the character oscillates back and forth between lovably ignorant of everything, just an absolute vacuous, empty-headed dullard, but sweet, right? Dumb as a rock, but sweet as a particularly sweet rock. A rock that's been rolling around in sugar. You still don't want to lick it, because it's a rock, and you don't know where that's been, probably in the ground somewhere. But he vacillates between that and, like, an inconsiderate, just jerk. Like, there's a scene where he's he's just not answering the phone because he doesn't. They hire him to be the secretary, and he doesn't answer the phone because he's just like doesn't feel like it. He's like, "Well, I've got to go," and they're like, "Kevin, the phone." He's like, "Well, if I think about it, I will." It's like, what are you doing with the character here? And then there's a scene later in the film where he comes running up in a jumpsuit, and he's like added a bunch of crap to his bike. He's like, "I'm a Ghostbuster," blah blah blah. I'm like, where is this coming from? This was like him wanting to be an actual Ghostbuster and them telling him, no, you're the secretary, is not anywhere in the film. It's not established. It just comes out of nowhere. So, yeah, a lot of stuff, although they do have a dance sequence, and I love that. So, you know, there's some give and take. Let's see. Alone in the Dark remake is very good, says Snake. I keep seeing bad review after bad review, mainly complaining how the combat isn't like Resident Evil, and I'm just sitting here thinking, it's not Resident Evil. Yeah, I haven't played the remake. You'll be unsurprised to hear, but I am familiar with the original game, and yeah, I mean, good God, if you thought the early Resident Evil games were clunky tank control thingies, oh man, the original Alone in the Dark. I mean, you can crotch kick everything in that game, but it is really, really slow. I'll be honest, I don't like the original Alone in the Dark. I probably played it just way too late. It's really hard to go back to, well, particularly now. It would have been hard to go back to pretty much any time in the last several years. It's just a very old, clunky game now. Respect its position in the annals of game history, particularly with the horror genre. But oh god, that game it's also ugly as sin. You hear some of these old games, they're like, you could literally count the polygons, and it's like, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but yeah, it's not that far off. The game doesn't hold your hand, Snake says, and quite literally wants you to solve the puzzles on your own, so I think it's filtered a lot of people. Even the original Alone in the Dark focuses more on puzzles than actual combat. Yeah. Although the original Alone in the Dark is kind of mean. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that will just kill you, and you'll fall through the floor or something if you walk in a certain spot. It's like, oh, okay. No indication about that. It's an old game. But anyway. Let's see. Colin Venture, hello. Have I seen the Punisher game from 2004? I don't know. Is that the one that they compromised, I think, with the ESRB by going black and white during all of the special kill sequences? Am I thinking of the right game? If that's the one I'm thinking of, so if that's the one, Anyway, we're talking about Ghostbusters. So now we move to Ghostbusters Afterlife, which came out a few years ago. And I didn't like that film at all. Well, that's not fair. There's a lot to like about the movie, but, I think Ghostbusters 2 and the one that came out in 2016 are not good films, but there's a lot to love about them if you're a fan of Ghostbusters. Afterlife, for me, made me miserable. I almost hated it. There's a lot about it that I liked, like individual moments, individual scenes, individual elements. But overall, what really bothered me about that film is something I've touched on briefly as I've talked about the history of the Ghostbusters movies. Is Afterlife felt deathly afraid to be anything other than the first movie. To the point where it was like using music cues from the original film, which is fine. The Bernstein score is amazing, but they used them wrong. Like they used music cues from the original film without understanding their use. I mean, how can I even explain this? It would be like playing Leia's theme during the attack on the Death Star, the trench run. You'd be like, it's a great piece of music, and yeah, I remember that, but why is that theme here? It doesn't fit. That's not what that's for, right? The original music was actually really good, though. But many times when they switch to, we're gonna grab some cues from the original score, it's like, okay, yeah, but that doesn't belong here. Do you not have an understanding of what that original cue was used for and why it doesn't fit here? I was so glad when Baby Egon, whatever her name is, first encounters Gozer. There's a great scene. There's some really great stuff in this movie, like where she's trying to drive the little remote control ghost trap on wheels somewhere, and the demon dog, the hound is like playing with it. That's hilarious. That's great. Her first encounter with Gozer, I was like, oh no, Gozer's gonna ask her if she's a god. And she doesn't. She asks her something like Gozer just looks at her like she's confused and going like, "Are you a sacrifice to me or something?" And little baby Egon is like, "No." I'm like, "No." I forget exactly what the interaction was, but it was funny. I'm like, "Oh, good." And then the original cast, the surviving cast shows up somehow. And at this point, I'm like so taken out of the movie that I start questioning dumb things like, how did they even get there? Did they get an Uber? A cab? Did they carpool? Where did their equipment come from? Ray already said that Egon had walked off with all of the equipment. Was he exaggerating? Did everyone at least have their old suits and everyone got to keep a proton pack? Doesn't sound right. I mean, the way Ray was talking about it sounds like Egon just cleaned house and left with all the stuff. And that stuff shouldn't matter. It shouldn't enter your head, but at that point in the movie, yeah. And then, of course, Gozer, are you a god? It's like, yes, we're all gods. I'm like, oh god, this is so fucking painful. And stuff like baby Egon's mom. Well, I guess she would be grandbaby Egon. Also, this doesn't work. Like, the ages... I don't know how old these characters are supposed to be, but I'm looking at these characters and going like, Egon had kids during the first movie. Which, I mean, okay, fine, but... I'm not sure. It's just kind of weird, right? It's because I'm looking at her mom. I'm like, counting backwards in my head. I'm like, yeah, she would have been born by then. Huh? But, she gets, because we got to do, we're doing Gozer again, and we're doing Evo Shandor again, and we're doing the Demon Dogs again, and we're doing, Vince Clortho and Zool again. Not only are we doing that again, but the woman, whatever her name, I forget the character's name, she's possessed by Zool, and she wanders out into the desert to find Vince Clortho, and she rips off her outfit to reveal the Gozer dress. And it's like, why? That's not Gozer's dress, that's Dana's dress. That's just a dress that Dana had in her closet that Zool put on, Zool dress, when Zool possessed her. Right? That at least was my interpretation of it. This isn't just Zool's outfit. This is something Dana had in her closet. Just like, Louis Tully's, pants and shirt were not Vince Clortho's outfit. It's just what Louis was wearing at the time. And Paul Rudd's character, Mr. Gruberson or something, wearing the same damn thing. It's like, what do you do? No! Oh, God. And that by itself doesn't ruin the movie, but the movie is just front to back that bullshit. I don't get the mini Stay Puffs. I mean, they're cute, they're marketable, I get that. But I don't understand why they're there. What manifested them? Did Gozer just think the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was a super cool design and decide to make little ones? I mean, you could make up some in-universe bullshit to explain it, but it's just... the whole movie just feels like people so pathetically, desperately afraid that you won't love them if they are not the first movie. It's sad, it's pathetic, and it's off-putting to me. I didn't like Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I'm in the minority on that one. Which makes me afraid of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, because the marketing, to me, makes it look like everything I didn't like about Afterlife is this movie. Like, I hope I'm wrong, because I'd love to love it, but again, they're bringing all the Ghostbusters back again. Walter Peck, remember him? He's there. We right? I mean, they didn't even bring him back for the second movie, because why would you? Which is not to say the second movie isn't blameless for bringing back stuff it didn't need to bring back, but and maybe it's used in a really creative, great way. I don't know. Oh, and Janine's back. Cool. Why? Does this woman have nothing better to do in her life? Why is she hanging around with these people? I mean, all the love for Annie Potts, but it's like, why would they bother? It's like, do none of these people have lives? Do they not go on to do other things? Janine, cool as she was just the fucking secretary. She was just the woman who answered the phones at the firehouse. Why is she this big? Because of the cartoon, I guess. But, and I mean, I guess they're just, pulling on some of the cartoon and comic stuff, which, okay, but this is not the cartoon or the comics. This is direct continuity with the, and again, I don't want to sound like a curmudgeon. I am, but don't want to sound like one. But maybe in the context of the film, it really, really works. But from the marketing, it's just like, look, it's Janine, and she's a Ghostbuster now. Love us, please. That's and maybe that's not what it is, but that's how it reads to me, and it's gross. I don't like it. You've got all kinds of characters. You don't need to bring all the surviving characters back. It's okay to let go. I saw a scene from Frozen Empire. It's the chase scene where they're driving around New York. There's a big blue flying dragon thing. Um, and I understand that the scene is edited a bit. At least, oh god, I hope it's edited a bit, because the editing is utterly, stunningly awful. But even aside from that, the scene's probably 3 minutes long, and they wanted to cut it down to 90 seconds. Okay, fine. Here's the secret, though. You didn't air it on TV. It was a YouTube clip. You could have just done the full scene. You don't have a time limit. You could just put the full scene on there and not have the problems of bad editing. But aside from the editing, there's this gag where the big blue dragon ghost monster plays chicken with the Ecto-1. And flies right at it, and they're like, "Oh no, we're gonna drive straight into a blue dragon ghost. Oh no, is it gonna pass through the car and slime all of us?" No, it veers, and it just kind of rubs along the side of the car. There's intense chase music, but it drops out, and there's just this squeak. There's this squeegee on glass sound as the ghost rubs against the side of the car as it flies by. That's a fun idea. That's hilarious. And then they cut to one of the characters who goes, "Ew." And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, do you not trust us to laugh at an obvious joke? Yeah, ew, he's sliming the side of the car. You dropped out the soundtrack and put in the overdone squeegee on glass effect for sound effect for humorous effect. I get it. I don't need one of the characters to literally tell me how to react to the damn thing. Come on. Now, who knows how this scene actually appears in the finished film? Don't know. But there's other things like these characters, the mom, the Paul Rudd, and the two kids are in the car in their Ghostbusters outfits, and the mom is like yelling at the daughter about being a Ghostbuster and being unsafe. It's like, well, why is she in the car then? Again, I haven't seen the movie. Maybe there's a good reason for this, and this works really well in the context of the film. But this is the clip they decided to share on social media in order to advertise the film. And she's like, "No, don't you do the gunner door thing." And it's like, well, she's gonna do it. She's sitting in that seat right now. What? Ah! So I didn't think it was a very good scene. It made it look poorly constructed. It made it look like the editing is terrible. It made it look like the jokes are falling flat. It made it look like the creators genuinely do not trust the audience to recognize a joke when they see it. So, yeah, I'm gonna go see Ghostbusters Frozen Empire because it's Ghostbusters, and I'm a big old Ghostbusters dork. And I hope it's great. I hope I'm completely damn wrong, and I hope I drive away from the film just happy as a clam. The happiest damn animals on Earth. Wouldn't be a phrase if they weren't so damn happy. Friggin' happy clams. They're real smug about their happiness, too. Smug happy clams. Well, I hope Ghostbusters is good. So I'm kind of afraid to see Ghostbusters because I really don't want to not like Ghostbusters. I don't like not liking things. I really don't like not liking Ghostbusters. But the marketing makes it look like everything I really didn't like about the last movie. So we'll see. Let's see. There are so many red herrings in the original game, it's actually unreal, says Snakes, talking about Alone in the Dark. Let's see. Colin says I'm guessing the Punisher game was made by Volition, and they went to make and break Saints Row. All right, Ghostbusters. Talking about big franchise IP. Hey, trailer for the new Star Wars thing. Let it ruin your childhood, says Lee. Let the hate fester within you. No, it's not going to ruin my childhood. My childhood was fine. I have Ghostbusters on DVD back there somewhere. If the new movie sucks, I'll be disappointed. I might even mope about it for a bit. I'll drive home disappointed and I'll go to bed in a huff. It's not going to ruin my childhood. I'll just be disappointed. So anyway, Star Wars Acolyte, or The Acolyte. Will it be good? Who the hell knows? I don't know. Star Wars has a pretty spotty track record. Like, some of the projects are really good, and some of them are not. So hopefully this will be one of the good ones. It's impossible to tell from the trailer, but it appears to take place in the distant past, and looks like someone's going stabby on the Jedi, and you know what? I'm all for that. Because the Jedi suck, and this trailer doesn't do anything to change my mind about how much the Jedi, as a institution, sucks. Like, it's a cult that abuses children, and directly results in horrible mass murdering monsters. So yeah, I'm rooting for Miss Stabby. She can go stab all the Jedi. The Jedi suck. Now, to be clear, laser swords, very cool. Force powers, very cool. The Jedi itself, the actual cult that takes children away from their families at a very young age and tells them what to think and to suppress their emotions and to cut off ties from all of their social support networks, and which keeps resulting in Sith. Yeah, maybe a bad path. I don't know. It's like, here, small child, here's a laser sword. I'm going to teach you to swing this shit around. Oh no, it's a training laser sword. If she hits herself in the face with it, or if she accidentally stabs someone else, it's not gonna kill them. We've got really good medical tech. It'll be fine. I mean, we lose very few younglings every year. Very few. Like, look at the board. Look at the board. What does that say? Look at the board and tell me what that says. That says, no younglings killed in 135 days. It's been 135 days since the last child in our care died. The Jedi suck. And I don't mind someone running around stabbing them. Disney changed a lot when they required it. Disney changed what? Who required what? A little vague there, Lee. I'm not sure what you're talking about. But I make fun, but Star Wars, some of it's fun, some of it's not. Hopefully this is one of the good ones. There's stabby person, there's laser sword peoples, there's fun looking aliens. I'm sure there's spaceships there too. The poster was really neat looking. It was just a lightsaber hilt, but with like a splash of blood coming out the end. So, evoking the imagery of a red saber, but this is just blood. It's like, ooh. My interest is piqued. How intriguing. How provocative, yes. So, cool teaser poster. Yeah. And I'm a big dork, so of course I'm going to watch it. I'll watch all the Star Wars stuff, even though Star Wars for me is, like, really an uneven franchise. Because, man, some Star Wars is really, really bad. Your mileage may vary, of course, but I thought, like, the Ahsoka show, to be clear, not that there was nothing to enjoy about the show. Plenty of stuff that I actually did enjoy in the show, individual moments and stuff like that. But overall, Ahsoka may be the worst live-action Star Wars thing. It may actually be the worst Star Wars thing, like, ever. Like, it may just be the bottom, the bear. I thought it was really, really bad. Just stunningly bad. But I thought Andor was pretty gosh darn great. So, and I think The Mandalorian is mostly pretty fun. I thought Book of Boba Fett was bad, but still definitely watchable. I mean, someone rode a Rancor into a battle. Although it does have the slowest damn chase scene I've ever seen. There's these characters in Book of Boba Fett who are this street gang of androids, kids who've like modified parts of their body with android parts, and they ride around floating colorful Vespas. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then they get into the expected chase sequence, and is literally one of the slowest slowest vehicular chase sequences that has ever been committed to film. I'm like, what happened here? This is the slowest vehicular chase I think I've ever seen. So weird. What else did we have? The Obi-Wan show was half good, but the other half was like bad. And if we're going by how I was graded in school, like if you get 50%, that's an F. So, the latest, the Star Wars movies that came out since 2015. If you want my opinion, and I know you do, Force Awakens. Force Awakens, way too reliant on the first movie, but had enough new stuff like new characters, Rey and Finn, Poe, and stuff like that, to be entertaining. So overall, I quite too much of a rehash of the original, but an entertaining film. Last Jedi I really liked. What's the Revenge of Skywalker, Return of Skywalker, the ninth film. Oh God, friggin' horror. Would probably be the worst Star Wars movie if it didn't have characters I really liked in it, like Finn and Rey and Poe. Right? Oh God, that is the first Star Wars movie to just genuinely confuse me. Like, I've seen all the Star Wars films, and I've been able to follow them because I'm a smart person who pays attention. But, man, I was watching Rise of Skywalker, whatever the hell the name of the movie is, and I'm like, I don't even... What am I looking at? What is that? So bad. Rogue One, I think, is a bad movie. It's just a bad movie. Again, with some really cool stuff in it, but just doesn't work as a film at all. The Solo movie is okay. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just kind of in the middle there. It feels like a movie that doesn't know what it wants to be. Granted, if I'm remembering correctly, that was originally Phil Lord and what's the other dude's name? The guys did the Lego movies. They originally directed that, and they fired him and replaced him with Ron Howard. So probably the reason that the movie feels like it's competing with itself and doesn't know what it wants to do at times. But, overall. So, anyway, my point is Star Wars for me is a very mixed bag. But I love me my Star Wars, so, I'll watch pretty much any new Star Wars thing that comes out. Except the cartoons. Just never got into it. I didn't like I saw the very early Genndy Tartakovsky, the very early Clone Wars cartoons, and I thought they were just terrible. So I didn't bother watching anymore. I hear that the Clone Wars show, once it became half-hour episodes, actually eventually got very good. But I never saw any of that, so I didn't bother watching Rebels or Bad Batch or any of the other stuff. So, and that's 200 episodes of stuff, so I'll probably never see it at this point. But I've seen all the live-action stuff, except the Star Wars special. I don't think I ever saw that. I've seen clips. I think that's enough. Star Wars. Yeah, some of it's going to be good, some of it's going to be bad. Hopefully Acolyte's good. So I watched some movies last night before, maybe last. I think it was actually last night. So last night, I watched Blue's Big City Adventure. The Blue's Clues movie. Yes, I watched it on purpose. Am I a big fan of Blue's Clues? No. Nope. But my sister is. And she was, I think Blue's Clues came out in like the late 90s. It was the latter half of the 90s, right? Well, I mean, it's, if I remember correctly, it came out like 96 or so. I think it ran into the early 2000s and then they stopped for a while. And I think it came back several years ago as New Blue's Clues or Blue's Clues and U's or something like that. Um, but my sister, for some reason, got a kick out of the old. I think she might have just had a crush on Steve, and well, hell, who can blame her? Steve's awesome. Um, so I saw the trailer for the film 2 years ago or whenever it came out, and I immediately forwarded it to my sister, and because I knew she'd be like E. And I watched it, I'm like, you know what? That doesn't look bad. I mean, it's got the new host, who I'd never seen before, but it also brings back Steve and the guy who replaced him in 2001 or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. They're doing a Blue's Clues host reunion. It's a full musical. It's got dance numbers and stuff. Maybe I'll check this out someday. Well, that day was yesterday. Steve left because he was losing his hair? Aw. Come to think of it, he is wearing a hat throughout this entire movie, so... I could understand that. It's okay. My hair's thinning, and I don't like it either. So, I get it. Yeah, and I can understand someone who's like hosting a children's show. He's like, look, I don't want to be losing my hair in front of the kids. I don't want to start. Okay, desk. I don't want to start. I'm supposed to be high energy. Hey, kids, we're gonna find clues from Blue because she keeps walking on the walls and stuff after she's dipped her paws in ink for some reason. Keep your filthy paws out of the inkwell, Blue! I will beat you with a rolled-up newspaper! Where are you even getting wells of ink? Oh god, are the children still watching? No. I mean, it's like, you don't want to do it. Your hair's falling out, you start going, ugh, as you sit into the thinking chair, or whatever the chair's got a name. I get it. That's fine. Steve is, whether you like Blue's Clues or not, and if you're older than 8, you probably don't, because it's not targeting you. I think most people, if they just watch the show just to see what it is, I think most would come away and go, wow, that Steve Smith, damn talented host. He's just really damn, his line delivery is great, his comic timing is amazing, he just a really solid performer, and same with the movie. So what I think of the movie, I actually enjoyed it. Like, not one of my unironically, now to be fair, I was laughing at it, I think, just as much as I was laughing with it. Interesting, although the movie's only is like less than 75 minutes, so it's like in and out. It's also a full musical, like full song and dance numbers front to back, and I'm a mark for musicals, so that makes it easy. I'm also old and curmudgeonly, so I'm kind of against CG Blue, because when I saw her back in the late 90s, she was kind of more South Park anime. I mean, it's still a CG driven, I'm sure, but it's kind of South Park animation, more of a 2D paper cutout kind of a look. Now she's a full CG character, and so are all the other animate objects, like the salt shaker and the bar of soap, soapy, or whatever. But the movie is genuinely kind of adorable. It just has a really infectiously earnest energy and enthusiasm that isn't cynical or like disingenuous. Like, whether it's the case or not, all of the performers make you as the audience feel like they're just as up and chipper as they appear to be. Someone's running around upstairs. The songs are okay. They're not going to knock your socks off. You're probably not going to whistle any of them. You're not going to remember any of them. But they're solid. I wish some of the songs would go a little bit harder. Like there aren't really a lot of like key changes or octave jumps or it's like, okay, we're gonna blow the back of the house out right now. We're gonna do something special. No, it's not that. But I mean, you want the kids to sing along, I suppose. So that's probably why we're keeping the arrangements and the melodies as simple as they generally are throughout the show. So some of the actual intended humor I found was just really funny. And Steve is just amazing. That guy's a hell of a performer. His comic timing is amazing. All hail Steve! Steve. He's great. The new host, whatever that guy's name, Josh, I think, that they got to host it when they brought this series back in 2019 or whatever. Perfectly fine. Completely different energy from this guy, but he's perfectly fine. He's no Steve, but who is? Not sure why Joe left. I think Joe, the second host, I think he left because they just didn't renew the show. I think the show like ended in 2003 or 4 or something like that, and I don't know. I didn't really follow it, but I think the show just ended after 7 or 8 seasons, and that was it. Joe's fine too. Again, another host who just has a very different vibe than either Steve or Josh. That's the interesting thing, is they didn't hire someone who could do Steve. That sounded dirty. Who could they just hired a different host with their own personality and vibe. Same thing with Josh. So you have 3 completely different guys, which is nice. So some of the humor that's intended, I thought was very funny. It's one of those, we're moving out of storybook land and we're going to New York because Josh is going to audition for a Broadway play or something, and so he goes to New York and he's standing on not Times Square. They looks like they did some location shooting, but this opening sequence is clearly done on a lot with the background screened in. And what's hilarious is it appears they only had like 15 to 20 extras because the same people keep walking by. I'm like, oh, there's the woman in the charcoal blazer again. There's the guy in the pink shirt walking by again. I was recognizing all the people constantly walking by. It's like, I think they only had like 50 people. So that's an example of me kind of laughing at the movie. Also, the film really feels like it was shot by people who have only the cinematography work was done by people who have only shot a locked down single camera children's television show and have never had to do a movie, never had to move the camera, because there's a lot of really bad cinematography that was the wrong choice, right? This is the wrong angle. This is not where you would put the camera. For example, in this early shot, there's when he first gets to New York, he looks down at his right leg to where Blue, who's a CG cartoon, is sitting, and the camera cuts to a new angle, and it shows Blue sitting next to the correct leg. But the way the first shot is done, it leads you to think that the next shot is going to be not exactly a POV shot, but shot from the same side. But no, they skip the 180 and shoot it from the other side, and it's just like he looks down this way, and then the camera angle is just coming from the complete opposite direction when they show Blue. She's sitting by the right leg, but the camera's on the wrong side, and it's just disorienting and weird. But then there are other shots in this movie that are just really well thought out. For example, there's this musical number where a bunch of people are dancing on a flight of stairs, and the camera is looking straight at the stairs where you have your cast dancing, and they do a move where they just kind of, I don't know, do a slide kind of a thing where they slide to one side of the stairs and then they slide to the other side. And what the camera does is it tilts, it dutches in the direction of the slide, like someone's got the TV and is, jostling the characters around. It's like, that's a really clever idea. But some of the other camera shots are objectively incorrect, and I was actually proud of myself for recognizing some of the cameos. There's a Broadway lady who I remember. I'm not familiar with her stuff, but I remember reading about her a couple years ago. Stoker, something like that. Susan. There's another guy, Tattoo or Taboo. I can't remember. I think he's the Black Eyed Peas guy. I think. I know I've seen him before. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know this guy too. So if I recognize, I'm bad at cameos because I don't know who the hell anyone is because I don't pay attention to popular culture. So I'm like, if I recognize someone, I'm like, congrats to me. So anyway, Blue's Big City Adventure is not aimed at me at all. And that's okay. It really shouldn't be. But I actually kind of want to watch it with my sister because I think we'd have a lot of fun with that film. So, yeah. Let's see. Steve once says Snake, he enjoys reading fan mail. His favorite one just said, "Dear Steve, I want to be a pizza. Bye." Okay. That would probably be what that's as fan mail goes. That's a pretty good one. Lee says Steve and Joe were brothers, and Josh is the cousin in the show, not in real life. Yeah, Joe is in the universe is Steve. I think Joe is not the actor's name. I think his name is like Donovan, if I'm remembering reading the credits right. Maybe they thought 4-year-olds just couldn't pronounce Donovan easily, so they're like, Joe. Joe's fine. The other guy's name is Josh, and it's like Josh Dela Cruz or something. I think Steve is Steve Burns. Donovan's, I don't know. I just read the cast list last night. I'm the kind of dork who actually reads the credits and then immediately forgets them. So I'm possibly wasting my time here. But that's not what we podcasted today for. We wanted to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's, which I watched last night after the Blue's Clues movie. It's a great double feature. The Blue's Clues movie and Five Nights at Freddy's. Reminds me, I had a birthday. I've got one every year, but I had one back in, I don't know, when it was 2013. And I did a theater double feature of Hoodwinked, a CG animated film about Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf and stuff, which is actually, it looks like shit. Yeah, very low budget film. It looks terrible, but it's actually a pretty funny movie. So I saw a double feature of Hoodwinked and Hostel, the Eli Roth torture porn movie from like 2013 or something. So yeah, sometimes I have some. I'm really good at programming, double features and marathons and stuff, but no one ever hires me to do it. So anyway, so I watched Five Nights at Freddy's. FNAF is not my cup of tea, says Lee. I played the first game and it's fine. I did feel it was kind of weird that the movie came out now, because like that's like at least half a decade past this IP's prime. But the cast of characters, Freddy and the blue dog. No, wait, is it a rabbit? What is it? No, it's purple. What is the purple thing? Is it a dog? I think it's a rabbit. But no, Bonnie the bunny, something, and then Chica the chicken, and Foxy the fox. Right, there we go. There's clever names. Great character design. Just iconic characters. Make great plushies. Make great art. Make great machinima. Cool character design. So yeah, it's still recognizable. You know, it's great. Play the original game. Thought it was all right. It has a really nice sense. It's not really fun to play, but it's got a really great sense of humor. Like the premise of the game is you are a security guard at a closed Chuck E. Cheese's that has those animatronic characters, and a guy calls you up and he's like, "Hey, hello, how are you doing? I'm just gonna tell you what's going on. You just gotta watch the monitors because we've got some real cool animatronic characters that are in like a free roaming mode. So you'll see them wandering around, and don't worry about it. They stay out of trouble. But you know, if they try to get in your office, you should probably just close the door. Yeah, I mean, you'll be fine, but you know, there's a chance that." They don't recognize you as human, and there's a store policy, a company policy that all animatronics must be in their costumes at all times. So if they catch you, they're probably gonna try and stuffably force your ass into one of the character costumes, which is actually kind of funny, but. Being that these character costumes are full of mechanical parts and cross beams and wires and stuff, your face is not going to fit and will probably leak out the front. So, you know, just close the door when they come by. It'll be fine. You know, it's got that kind. It's like, I mean, one of these things did actually accidentally bite off one of the children's head once, but you know, the kid was fine. You can live without your frontal lobe. It's okay. We got sued into the ground, but you know, the kid is breathing. The kid is technically alive. So it's got this really wonderfully dark and silly sense of humor, even if the game is very simple and not really that fun. It's got a nice style to it. I think the character design is absolutely on point, and the humor is very funny. I'll give it that, right? But you know, I played the first 4 nights of Freddy's. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. That's fine. You know, whatever. So the movie. And Pat. Oh, he's the dude who runs the film theory YouTube channel and retired. He's got a cameo in the movie, and they don't rub your face in it, which is nice. I mean, it's nice that this. I'm gonna guess his name is like what, Matthew Patrick? Is it an onomatopoeia? Portmanteau, his first and last name. Is that where the Matt Pat comes from? Anyway, because apparently he did theories on Five Nights at Freddy's. You know, what does it mean? You know, what's really going on? And I have no idea because I didn't watch any of the videos because I don't care. No disrespect. I just genuinely am not interested in the FNAF lore. Let's see. Cafe Fox says, I only played Security Breach and its DLC. Not bad. Very lore-heavy series. I hear it is. I guess either I missed it in the first game or they really start getting into background and lore in the sequels. But, you know. Sean Hockenberry, I haven't seen you in a while. Hello. Did I see the trailer for Beetlejuice? I did, such that it is. Not surprising, Jeffrey Jones's character's dead. Yeah, I mean, it's a teaser. It's just like here's the Deetses and the new Deets, little Deets, and Beetlejuice. And it's like, oh, okay. Don't know no idea what the plot or the premise or anything is, but yeah, I saw the teaser. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. I like Beetlejuice. Hopefully the new movie's good. Anyway, so I saw the marketing for Five Nights at Freddy's, and it wasn't really doing anything for me. I'm like, well, they got the look of the characters right, so good on them there. But then they released the first 10 minutes or so of the film. Paramount, I think that's who put it out. They put out the first 10 minutes of the film on their YouTube channel. I'm like, oh, all right, cool, and I'll watch it. And I watched the first 10 minutes, and I was genuinely impressed. I was like, wow. the first 10 minutes of the film are really solid. Like there's it's really well shot. The atmosphere is great. They're shooting the animatronics well. You know, it's a lot of you know, movement in the background and sound design and shadows and stuff. I'm sure we get better looks at them later, but you know, they're doing really nice there. The music is really good. The theme song, I think it crescendos. I feel the theme should build. I'm talking about the opening sequence of the film where they're showing the kind of the backstory via a 80s arcade graphics presentation with this guy in a big yellow bunny suit kidnapping children, which is horrible, but because of the juxtaposition with this these old arcade graphics and this kind of 80s synth a song that's playing, it becomes darkly funny because it's like there's these, you know, little children, yay, we're children, yay, we're children. The bunny walks across and keeps picking them up, you know, dragging them away one by one, which is terrible but also darkly hilarious. I think that the theme song that's playing right there would have been well served to build, because it starts pretty much full blast with the spooky children's choir, and I'm like, no, you build to that. I mean, you're doing the thing where you have the bunny man stealing the children one by one. Wouldn't it be cool if the more children he steals, the louder, the more present, the more complex the spooky children's choir gets? Right? That seems to be like what this scene is advocating for, but that's not what. It's still a fun theme song. I still like the theme, even though I think it hits its crescendo way too early. And then whoops, pulling my armrest off here. The humor is really on point. The characters seem to work. It's doing a really phenomenal job with just visual storytelling instead of like, hi, I'm lead character and I don't have a lot of money in the bank account. I have to take care of my sister after my parents are dead, and blah, 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 right? There's a lot of really solid and clear visual storytelling, so they don't have to beat you over the head with that type of overbearing exposition. So I was like, well, hey, maybe the FNAF movie is going to be really good. Nifty. So last night, after I watched the Blue's Clues movie, like an adult, I saw that the FNAF movie was on, I don't know, Amazon Prime or whatever the hell I watched it on. So I watched it. A couple weeks ago, I watched, I've talked about this in the podcast, but I watched a movie called Nemesis. Early 90s, cheap, action-y sci-fi film. That spawned a bunch of sequels. I really liked Nemesis. It's one of those kind of movies that you'd pick up at Blockbuster or something when you were a kid because the cover art looked cool. You know, it had action man shooting a machine gun, and you're like, oh, okay. And you watch it, and it's like, oh, actually, that's a really good movie, right? Or especially when you're 12. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch the sequel, and the sequel's not as good, but you know, it was fun. It had the barbarian lady in the fuzzy britches running around the outdoors, punching people in the face. It's fun. And then the third one came out, and it was even worse. And then the fourth one, which was terrible. And then the fifth one, which was absolutely unwatchable. And that made me sad, because these Nemesis movies started pretty solid and just got progressively worse and worse until it was just terrible. And sadly, so it goes for Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie. It starts out, in my ever so humble opinion, really, really strong, and then just nosedives and gets worse and worse and worse throughout the runtime until it just crash lands into the ground and then breaks through the crust of the earth, tunnels through the mantle, and into the Earth's core. And then pushes past it and out the other side. It's just, holy shit, Five Nights at Freddy's is terrible. But what's the weirdest thing to me is it starts really strong, and then it loses steam and falters and falls, and just keeps. Oh God, it just gets worse as it goes. I've seen usually movies are pretty consistently good or bad throughout the. I mean, they've got the, or at least if movies are a mixed bag, they're like an oscillating sine wave, right? I mean, it's a. Can you have a sine wave that doesn't oscillate? But no, this movie's like a linear path down. It's oh God, this movie is terrible. Holy biscuits and gravy. Like it is like everything that's shockingly good about the first 10 minutes, which I mean it doesn't immediately start failing, but the first 15 20 minutes of the movie, like most of it goes away. Like the visual storytelling it kind of stops, although I guess they've communicated what they need to communicate by that point, so it's not as big a deal. The cinematography is always pretty solid. The camera direction, lighting and stuff, the spooky atmosphere, that remains pretty consistent. But oh, biscuits, does the story and the characters and the dialogue and the choreography and just the blocking and scene choices just get worse and worse. And I don't know if they were just trying to cram 4 or 5 games of weird, obscure lore into one movie, but it is just a nonsensical, aggravating mess. The characters, both our lead characters, are just start out pretty strong. Like I was on Mike's side at first, even though we're introducing to this guy who one of his first scenes is he tackles some dude in a mall and starts beating the shit out of him. It's like because he thinks he's kidnapping a child. It's not. It's just his son. He's just being a brat, and so he just tackles this guy into a fountain, just punch it. It's like this guy's probably dead or in a coma or something. But it's like. And the next scene, he's like in a job recruiter's office, and it's like, you lost your job because you assaulted somebody. It's like, dude, this guy be in prison. But it sets a tone, right? We have a guy who we already know is almost broke, has trouble sleeping, is taking care of his sister with no help, who is very difficult to deal with. He's barely hanging on. He's definitely got some trauma regarding, child kidnapping or something, which we learn a little bit more about later. Visual storytelling. I love it. And, this is great. But eventually, he gets the job at, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And it's really difficult to get on Mike's side because he doesn't take his job seriously. Like, he's doing the graveyard shift, right? He goes to the pizzeria and he's supposed to just watch after the place at night. There's no scene where someone calls him up and it's like, oh yeah, the animatronics wander around, shut the door if they try to get in the office. It's just, watch the place. Just, make sure no one breaks in and takes the stuff. Now, we understand that this guy is frazzled and he's stressed and he's at the end of his rope, so we would understand if he, dozed off on the job. I mean, sitting there at 3 in the morning, staring at these CCTV monitors of nothing happening is mind-numbingly boring. You're probably going to doze off. It's almost unavoidable. I get that. But here's the thing. Mike goes to work to sleep. Like, he doesn't even try. I mean, he literally takes his dream poster, his Sounds of the Ocean cassette, puts his headphones on, takes his sleeping pills, and goes to sleep. And it's like, okay, well, screw this guy. Hard to get on the... Like, I was on board with a guy who beat the ever-loving shit out of some random guy in a mall, but this is a bridge too far. It's like, come on, guys. I mean, he's not even trying. He's literally... He has this poster that he has on his ceiling of the woods. and he listens to sounds of the forest, and he takes a sleeping pill, and he stares at the poster to try and get to sleep, right? He takes his poster to work, along with his sounds of nature and his sleeping pills, so he can sleep at work. Jackass, do that during the day. I mean, I know you have a kid to, your sister to watch, but good gravy. And then you have Vanessa, the police officer, who is one of those absolutely aggravating, who starts off fine. She's the exposition person, the person who's been around the block, who's like, so you're the new guy, huh? Yeah. You security guards don't last very long. She's the exposition person. She's been around. She knows something's going on here. But then she turns into that character who clearly knows what's going on and just will not tell you. That person who, if you would have just told me what's going on, lots of people would still be alive now. And then she blames you. It's like, I warned you not to take this job. It's like, yeah, and you didn't tell me why, so I ignored you because you sound like a crazy person. She's that. Oh, The movie is really bad. The plot makes almost no sense. Hey, have you seen Jurassic Park? No, I'm sorry, Jurassic World. The first Jurassic World. There's a scene in the movie where a person gets attacked and ate by dinosaurs. And by itself, without proper context, it's a cool ass scene because this person gets, grabbed by a pteranodon or something and, yanked off her feet, and she's just flying around, and then she gets dropped in the mosasaur tank, and she's trying to swim to the side, and the damn birds keep dive bombing her, and and then she, the mosasaur comes up under her and eats both her and the bird, and then pulls her into the drink where she's never seen again. And it's like, holy shit, that's an incredibly prolonged and elaborate death scene, which would be pretty cool if it didn't happen to like the least deserving person in the movie. Like, this wasn't just some random person. This was a character that we actually got to know a little bit. And she's just the babysitter, right? She's supposed to look after the two kids, Bryce Dallas Howard's two kids, or niece and nephew, or whatever the hell they are to her, while they're touring the park. And she does. She doesn't complain about it. She doesn't, like, ditch them. She's not mean to them. I mean, you think a person who ends up with this death in a movie of this particular tone, one of, fun adventure, would be, you'd think that it's like, oh, they got their comeuppance, right? But no, she didn't deserve that. And you have this really long, elaborate, prolonged dinosaur attack and human swallowing scene, and you end up just kind of feeling bad. And it's like, oh, I feel bad about that. That was awesome, kind of out of context, but that kind of sucks, and now I feel bad. Which I don't think is the tone they were going for. Five Nights at Freddy's does almost exactly the same thing. To the babysitter, again, it's so weird. The babysitter, who is the least deserving of a prolonged, violent, terrible death, has the worst, easily the worst, most absolutely horrific death in the film. And a really cool death, too. It's really well conceived and shot. Particularly for a PG-13 film. Like, oh man, that is a terrible, horrific way to die. And this particular character, who again is not just some random person, is someone we got to know a little bit, definitely didn't deserve that. This is a movie that was going out of its way to show that, while she's taking advantage of another person, she doesn't really seem to like doing it. She seems to be, again, the visual storytelling is showing that she's got problems of her own that she's dealing with the best she can. And so she and her brother gather up some friends to break into the Fazbear pizza place and vandalize it. She doesn't want to, but she's getting paid $1,000 to it, and she doesn't even go inside. She just like drives them there and waits outside. I guess she's just a lookout. And then she goes in because she's like, where the hell is everybody? You know, she's concerned for other people's safety. And then she sees a child, which I guess is a ghost, and she's like, kid, are you okay? And then she gets forcibly wrenched into an animatronic and bitten in half. And it's like, oh Jesus, that's a really cool death scene because it's done in a you see the silhouette of her getting yanked into this costume and then being just bisected and the shadow of her legs just kicking in the air as her lower half falls to the floor, and then the camera cuts to her lower half just plopping on the floor. It's like, oh damn, holy shit, that's amazing. And I feel kind of terrible because she really didn't deserve that hard of a death. Everyone else who dies in the movie, with the exception of like the first security guard who we don't know, so are people we either don't know or are deserving of some measure of horror movie comeuppance. No one deserves that shit in real life, but in the context of a horror movie, you're like, you I don't know, you kicked a puppy, so now you deserve death. You know, it's like, I mean, no, maybe not death, but you definitely deserve some comeuppance. But in a horror movie, yeah. So it's like, okay, cool execution, but wrong character. It's like, why did you go out of your way to make this character someone who didn't deserve that death? Because again, the tone of the movie is not, you should be feeling bad about it. It's a fist pumpy, fun, popcorn goes all over the place. It's that kind of a tone, right? And instead you're just like, oh, dude, that was mean. Oh, I feel bad now. Oh well. Thankfully, no one cares or thinks about her like ever again. And their plot, it's like, haha, we're gonna screw with Mike by we're gonna make him look bad by breaking into Freddy Fazbear's Pizza during the day when he's not working there. Haha. Look, people vandalize. You're a terrible security guard. Yeah, I worked from 10 to 6. You broke in during the day. I wasn't there, so that is a stupid plan. It's not clear. It's like, the ghosts of the children are in the animatronics. It's like, cool. Why are they killing people? Are they just vengeful spirits? Yes and no. And they're being controlled by someone else. What? Why? And they want the little girl. They have her. She's there all the time. No, they want to kill her, I guess? Make her one of them. There's like 5 of them. What do they need one more for? Also, what happened? Where's the golden Freddy? Because there's a golden Freddy. There's the brown Freddy and there's a golden one. And it just appears in one sequence and then it's never addressed again. It's just gone. So I guess one of the animatronics is a ghost. Has absolutely no impact on the plot. Could have been literally any of the other animatronics except maybe the cupcake. Oh, the ant gets killed. No one seems to notice. You think Mike would have, after the end of the movie, it's like, oh, we survived 5 nights at Freddy's. Now I'm going to jail because the mutilated corpse of my aunt is on my living room floor. Someone who has been antagonistic towards me, and I would have a reason to want to see harm come to. But no, that's never addressed. We don't care. The plot makes no sense. But there are some really neat things. Like, I like there's this through line of communicating via picture, via children's drawing, which actually ties into a nonsensical, but it actually ties into the ending, however nonsensical it is. The bad guy, for some reason, both wants and doesn't want Mike. at the Fazbear's Pizza. It's like, make up your mind. Now, my first thought was, oh, this is definitely the bad guy. He's probably the guy who kidnapped his younger brother back in the day, and he recognizes him, so he's going to send him to the Freddy's Fazbear place so that he'll die by animatronic. But no, that doesn't actually seem to be the plan, because he yells at him later. He's like, if you would have not stuck your nose in this... It's like, well, then why the fuck did you send him to the pizza joint in the first place? What was the plan? This makes no sense. This is stupid. Also, the animatronics are bad. I was genuinely surprised. They look great, but the actual performances are crap. Although the physical performer of the guy in the yellow bunny suit, which isn't an animatronic, it's just a guy in a suit, is a great physical performance. Weird. And if these spring locks are so unreliable, why the fuck would you get in that suit? What the hell, dude? These costumes have all the animatronics, but they can be, like, wound aside and pulled into the side so a performer can get in there and use the suit as a doubled costume, right? But apparently the locking mechanisms that hold all of the internal structure to the sides of the suit keep breaking and stabbing the costume wearer. And it's like, everyone knows this. You had to know that. Why are you wearing the suit? There is literally zero reason for him to have shown up wearing the damn suit. Why? And it's like, oh shoot, I'm getting stabby-stabbied. I better put the headpiece back on to get stabbed in the face. What? Why? Holy shit, this movie is utterly terrible. It has such a strong start, too. These are the same people who made Jaws, so what do you expect? The same people who made the shark in Jaws in 1974, whenever it was in production, the same people that made I thought it was the Henson Company that did these, and they look great, but the performance is bad. In the games, it makes more sense. My understanding is William Afton, or whatever it is, like the ghosts of the children, like turned on him, and he desperately put on the suit because that's what he was wearing when he killed them. So he's like, if I put on the suit, I can scare them away. But then the suit malfunctions and kills him, and he becomes a Springtrap, right? And that's okay. He's backed into a corner, so he hides in the suit. Just like he hid the bodies of the children in their suits. Except that doesn't really come into... And it's like, oh my, it's not just the children's souls that are in the suit. It's their bodies. It's like... And this leads to what? Oh, nothing. It's just kind of creepy, right? Like, there's kitty corpses in these. Whole time. Like, your daughter's been, hugging and playing patty cake with all of these animatronic animals, and there's, like, kitty corpses inside. And pretty gross, huh? It's like, is that pertinent to the story at all? No, not at all. It's like, yeah, these mascot costumes, when those children went missing, he knew that no one would ever think to check inside the mascot costumes. Why would they? What? No, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Of course they'd check in the mascot costume. If children went missing in Disneyland, the investigators would definitely, look in the empty Mickey costume things. It's not like they didn't know that these things doubled as animatronics and as performing suits. I do not believe for a second that... I think in the game there's like a hidden room behind a false wall or something. But... the movie's really bad. And... yeah, the movie's bad. Is these robots actually like the Banana Splits horror movie? I haven't seen that, but no, the Banana Splits, from what I understand, is well, they were also supposed to be robots, although the Banana Splits were dudes in costumes. I'm not even sure, but from what I understand, that's actually a gory movie. Let's see. In the games, the ghost of the kids chase him into the suit, and he enters them because it scares the ghost kids, but it goes off and... Yeah, right. So I got it right. Wow, I know more FNAF lore than I thought. They always turned on him. They were just trapped in the animatronics, but William destroys the robots to hide evidence, but basically releases the kids. Oh, so he destroys the evidence, which releases their souls, and they come to get him, so he hides in the suit, and it ends up killing him. It's a nice little circular thing. Yeah, that's fine. It's a bad movie. Could I have done better? No. No, probably not, but yeah, that's... Yeah, I think the most notable thing is how strong it starts, and it just progressively gets worse. Don't often see a movie where the quality just nosedives throughout the entire runtime. It's like, wow, this is just getting progressively worse. It's weird. Waiting for a Poppy Playtime movie? There you go. Alright, so that's enough bitching about movies that aren't aimed at me. So, the series is supposed to end at the 4th game, but Scott made so much money and everyone basically begged him to make more. Did he actually do the later 3D games, like Security Breach and whatever the other one is? Or did he just produce them? I don't know. So the dude shrugged and kept making him. Alright, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like Five Nights at Freddy's. I thought it started well and then ended very poorly. Oh well. Maybe the sequel will be better because I think the movie did quite well. So I'm sure we'll get a sequel. Hopefully it's better. Yeah, it didn't. Oh, he sold it, so he didn't do Security Breach. Okay. All right. That's it for tonight. Thanks everyone for hanging out. I'm gonna just watch cartoons. Got 2 more episodes of season 5 of the Dragon Prince to watch. So there we go. It's bad. Oh, Lee says yes, it's bad. Snake says he's video game rich, and I think he's just relaxing and taking care of his family now. Oh well, good. You made your money. Enjoy it. Yep. So, join me tomorrow. We'll be playing some more Trails to Azure, and let's see, what are we doing? We're still looking for Bracers, Lynn, and Aeolia. We're taking a boat across the pond, but not to Michelin. I think they said we're going to a swamp. So we're going to go get our shoes soggy while we look for our Bracer pals. So, join me tomorrow at noon for the Sunday stream fun. Hope to see you then. Until then, take care, everyone.